I find it fascinating that when I look at the back end of this podcast behind the scenes, of all the many thousands of people who listen to this show every single month, so few of them have actually hit that follow button, and even fewer have ever left us a rating or a review. If you enjoy the podcast and you get value out of it, then I would ask that you do us a solid and just take a small moment to hit that follow button. And if you want to go just one little step further, take a second to rate and review the show. It means nothing to you, but it means everything to me. And you just taking a small amount of your time to support the show is going to allow me to expand the reach of this podcast, bring it to more and more people, and continue to bring you more and more value every single week. So wherever you are right now, just take one moment, tap that follow button, and if you want to go just a little step further, leave us a rating and a review. Thank you so much for listening in and supporting the show. Thank you for being here today, and let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome to the Conscious Love Show. Whether you are single, you are in a relationship, or you're healing a broken heart, this show is here to inspire you, to remind you how beautiful, lovable, and amazing you truly are, and to give you the practical tools and insights to navigate from wherever you are right now to the loving relationship that you so deeply want to have. My name is Shane Kohler. I'm a certified transformational coach and trainer with over a decade experience helping people release their trauma and open their hearts to love. I've delivered seminars all over the world, coached thousands of people through my online platforms and programs, and every week I'm coming straight to you with the hottest insights and the best teachers around, bringing you powerful resources and profound conversations to heal your relationship with love, dating, and yourself. I'm so grateful you're here, and if it's your first time, welcome. You can count on me to always show up for you with my very best and a commitment to learn and grow myself so I can serve you to my maximum ability. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. I've got some awesome things planned for you today. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Love Show podcast. Shane Kohler here. Pleasure to be on with you today. Look forward to diving into today's episode. Today we are talking about the 10 different types of attraction. And I think this is going to be a really fascinating conversation. I'm always fascinated by the idea of attraction, right? Like what pulls us into people and even what repels us from people, right? The opposite of attraction is repulsion. So what is it about somebody that kind of pulls us in? And what is it about somebody that kind of pushes us away, right? And I think when we want to partner with someone, if we're looking for a relationship, like attraction has to be present. It's essential, right? You can't want to spend your life with someone. You can't want to get close to someone, have sex with them, be physical with them, right? You can't do any of this if there's not some form of attraction there. And I think a lot of us have the experience of sometimes being attracted to all the wrong things or all the wrong people, right? We're attracted to people who consistently hurt us or consistently break our heart. And we'll talk about those types of attraction today and what that's all about. Sometimes we're attracted to people who, or maybe we're not attracted to the people who would be good for us, right? And sometimes we're attracted to people in ways that we don't really think we should be attracted to them, but we're attracted to them anyway, right? Like what is it about somebody that they don't necessarily look attractive to us or they don't fit the picture or the image of what we thought that we were looking for, but yet we're still somehow attracted to them, and that can be really confusing. Sometimes, we'll go on a lot of dates with a lot of people and not really feel like we're attracted to anyone, right? So something we could also address today is if you feel like you're not attracted to people often, or there's not an abundance of attraction out there, well, what might you be able to start looking for or tuning into that could have you experience attraction more often? And it's such a multifaceted conversation, the idea of attraction, and it's so much deeper than what most of us think it is, right? A lot of it is rooted in evolutionary factors. A lot of it is rooted in societal conditioning and in the way that we've been brought up. And to a degree, I think sometimes it's spiritual. To a degree, I think it's directly related to our wounding, right? And the wounds that we've experienced in past relationships or with our parents as children. But the wounding we've experienced in our lives can actually have us tune in to people who reflect that wounding, and who we actually end up being attracted to in any given moment of our lives can be such a mix of all these different factors. And so today I want to hopefully demystify it to some degree. I want to talk about the 10 different types of attraction, the 10 different levels that we can be attracted to someone. And maybe a part of this conversation can even be identifying which ones are non-negotiable for you, right? Like as we go through these 10 different levels of attraction, maybe you can identify, these 3 or these 4, or these 5 are absolutely non-negotiable. And if I meet someone who has these 5, I could be flexible about the other 5, right? So that might be part of the conversation too. Maybe you'll realize in today's conversation that there are levels at which you can be attracted to someone that you never considered before. And maybe that can lead you to having healthier attractions, right? Where you start to feel more connected to different kinds of people, or you start to feel more connected to people more often. So there are so many levels to this conversation, and I think it's so powerful. But what I really want to do today is distill these 10 different types of attraction and help you connect to the levels that are most important for you so that you can find someone that you're deeply attracted to, but that is also healthy and that can also be a deeply satisfying relationship long-term and be deeply fulfilling. So that's what we're diving into in today's conversation. And I'm excited about it. I just find it such a fascinating conversation to talk about. And something that I want to start with is I mentioned a few weeks ago on a podcast that that a lot of times, a lot of people will say that we need to lower our standards, right? That we're too picky or our standards are too high. And I don't think that's true. In fact, I think a lot of us don't have that high of standards to begin with. When we look at the people we actually engage with, sometimes we could do a lot better, in all honesty. So it's not that our standards are too high, but it's that I think sometimes we need to clarify and refine our standards. And this conversation, I think, can be especially helpful in doing that, in terms of identifying what are the most essential levels of attraction, the non-negotiables of my heart and my soul. So as we go through each of these and talk a little bit about them, I want you to keep that in mind, right? Like, what are the non-negotiable levels of attraction that are most important to me on a soul level? And what might that look like? How might that feel when I meet someone that I'm attracted to on those levels? How might I be able to lean into that more? So that being said, I want to jump right into kind of the bones of this. And yeah, let's do it. So there are 10 different types of attraction. And first, I'm just going to say what they are, and then I'm going to explore each of them one by one. So first one is probably the most common, the most obvious, would be physical attraction. The second one, emotional attraction, also pretty common, pretty obvious. Third one, sexual attraction, which I want to point out is distinct from physical attraction, right? So a lot of times we think physical attraction and sexual attraction are the same thing. They're actually two different things. So we'll talk about that today. Intellectual attraction, right? Being attracted to someone's mind, their intelligence, the conversation between the two of you. Status attraction, right? So I'm attracted to someone's position in society. Sometimes that can be the job they have, the car they drive, the circles of people that they're participating in, any and all of the above. There can be an energetic or a spiritual attraction. And I think this is something that I'll talk more about it today, but I think as we get more in tune with ourselves and our own intuition, we can start to be attracted to people on an energetic or a spiritual level for reasons that we don't even necessarily understand. This could be like a soul recognition. And I'll talk more about that. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but there's an energetic or a spiritual attraction. There's also a social attraction, right? The social attraction would be like observing someone in a social circle. So, their charisma, their humor, even the idea that other people are attracted to them, not even necessarily in a physical or a sexual way, but just that they have an attractive presence, right? When you're at a party, they can talk to people and people enjoy their company, and that can be very attractive, right? Somebody who is skilled in a social setting. There can be a mystery attraction where I don't know this much about this person, but they're intriguing. I want to know more. They draw me in with the mystique and the unknown, and I want to learn more. I want to find out more, right? There's that pull based on mystery. There's healing attraction, I'll talk more about it today, but healing attraction is a relationship that offers an opportunity to heal some wound that we have. It doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is going to be a healing relationship, but sometimes engaging with that person can reflect certain wounds that we have and give us the opportunity to heal those. And we'll talk about that today. The last one I want to touch on is ambition and drive attraction. So we're attracted to someone's ambition, their drive. Maybe they're career oriented. Maybe they're an entrepreneur, or they look like they're going to be very successful, or they have a creative passion, or they're motivated by a vision that they're, seriously engaged in. So that can be very attractive when we see somebody who is ambitious or has drive in their life. Now, I'm talking about 10 forms today, and I just briefly touched on each one. I want to say that in all the research I've been doing about attraction lately, there are actually a lot more than this. And I would say each of these kind of have subcategories too, right? Like under each of these, you could probably break them down in, physical attraction. Well, there are 3 or 4 different types of physical attraction, and there are 3 or 4 different types of intellectual attraction, right? So this conversation is so deep and so intricate. And as I mentioned earlier, there can be so many factors, right? There are hormonal factors, there are evolutionary factors, there are societal, cultural factors, there are physiological, sexual factors. There's so much to this. And what I'm going to talk about today I tried to narrow it down to the 10 broadest categories. Right. So of course there are aspects of attraction that I'm not going to be able to touch on today. And there are, as I said, subcategories in each of these. But I tried to narrow it down to 10 of the, maybe the biggest categories, and we could start there. And so, like I said, what I want to do is go through each of these and maybe shed a little light on all of them, and shed some insight into maybe how they're interrelated. And as I said earlier, as I'm going through these, maybe if you even have a notebook or a pen, or you just make a mental note, but think about what would be non-negotiable for you, right? What would be some non-negotiables for you? And as I said earlier, but I'll just say it again, if you can identify 5 non-negotiables, and they might surprise you, right? Maybe they're not what you thought they would be. But if you can identify 5 non-negotiables, that means the other 5 are negotiable. And there might be some things that you've been saying, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And now you might be like, you know what? In light of really viewing all 10 of these, I don't necessarily need this. I could tune in more to these other things. And then what that creates is more opportunity to be deeply attracted to people on levels that really matter. It might even open up an opportunity to attract healthier people, right? Or more fulfilling or more deeply satisfying relationships. So all that being said, let's dive in. I want to talk about each of these, and we'll start with, again, perhaps the most obvious, which is physical attraction. Physical attraction, and there are a couple levels to this, right? And so, as I said, each of these kind of has subcategories to it. But I think there's physical attraction, which is the desire to be physically close to someone. And that's distinct from sexual attraction, right? Being sexually attracted to someone, or let me put it this way, you could want to be physically close to someone without necessarily wanting to have sex with them. Those are two distinct things, right? You might feel comfortable hugging them or snuggling with them or holding their hand, but you don't necessarily want to have sex with them, but you still feel safe being physically close and physically comfortable with them, right? So those are two distinct levels of attraction. And then within I'd call it maybe the category of physical attraction, there is what I would call aesthetic attraction, which means I like the way they look, right? I like their style. I think they're attractive. I like their build. I like their shoulder to, waist ratio, or their waist to hip ratio, or however you want to put it. But there are physical factors about them that I find aesthetically pleasing with my eyes. And yet, you don't necessarily need to be aesthetically attracted to someone to be physically attracted to them. And this is kind of a confusing thing, because a lot of times we assume that we do, right? We assume that I have to like the way they look if I want to be physically close to them. But that's actually not true. And maybe this is where it gets combined with an energetic or a spiritual attraction, or an emotional attraction, or an intellectual attraction. But sometimes you can feel safe or comfortable or even turned on by somebody in a physical way, even though you don't find them aesthetically pleasing. And sometimes if you find them aesthetically pleasing, you'll want to get physically close to them, even if none of those other factors are there. So it's an interesting thing to really look at how these different criteria are interwoven. But in terms of non-negotiables, right? If we're going to look at non-negotiables, I think being physically attracted to someone in the sense that you want to be physically close to them, you want to share a bed with them, you want to snuggle up on the couch with them, you want to hold their hand, you want them to put their arms around, whatever, right? Being physically attracted to someone on those levels, I think, is pretty essential for a satisfying relationship, right? Like, nobody really wants a satisfying relationship in which you don't want to get close to the person. Or I would say nobody would think a relationship in which you never want to get close to the person is satisfying, right? Like, I think that's probably a core standard of satisfaction for all of us. And yet, I think there's an important distinction here. Physical attraction does not inherently mean aesthetic attraction, right? Physical attraction does not inherently mean aesthetic attraction. So we can be physically attracted to somebody in that we feel comfortable getting close to them without necessarily thinking, oh my God, they're the hottest person I've ever seen in my life. Or I love the way they dress, or I love their whatever about them in terms of how they look. Sometimes by leaning into an emotional attraction, leaning into a sexual attraction, leaning into an intellectual attraction, leaning into a spiritual attraction, leaning into an ambition attraction, which I'm going to, touch more onto all of these today. But sometimes by leaning into these other levels of attraction, physical attraction can actually develop even if it wasn't there instantly. So that's the first one, physical attraction, which is the desire to be physically close to someone. Distinct from being sexually attracted to them, right? But I want to snuggle with them. I want to be held by them. I don't mind sharing a bed with them. Part of this could even be how they smell, right? I think there's an evolutionary factor where if you don't like someone's smell, their natural scent, there's a level at which somewhere along the genetic lines, your genetics came too close together. And so part of our evolutionary, development or protecting our gene pool has been to develop this sense where if somebody is genetically compatible with us, we tend to be more attracted to them on a level of scent. But if somebody is not genetically attractive to us or genetically compatible with us, in that our genetic lines are too close to each other, then we tend to be repelled by their scent. A lot of people will be like, I can't stand the way my brother smells, or I can't stand the way, my father or my cousin smells. Well, there's an evolutionary protection that was built into that, right? Because it's something that is designed to repel us from people who are too close to us genetically. So that could be part of it as well. Now, I want to talk about emotional attraction. And so emotional attraction is about feeling emotionally connected, feeling safe, feeling understood. This is often, we might say, what could turn a short-term connection into a long-term bond. Again, if we're talking about non-negotiables here, I mean, look, there are lots of people who have been married for 20 years that are not emotionally connected. Been married for 50 years, right? Like, there are a lot of people who got married a long time ago and stayed together and never had a deep emotional connection. So I don't know that it's required for a long-term relationship, but is it deeply satisfying is a question, right? Like, is it deeply satisfying to have a relationship, a long-term relationship in which you're not emotionally connected to the person? I would have to argue no, right? Like, could you be connected on other levels? Could you be connected on social levels? You go out to parties together. Could you be sexually connected? Could you be, connected in terms of like the life you live, the wealth you build, the hobbies you share, the working out together? Sure. And you could fill that space with other things. But in terms of being deeply satisfied in a partnership, I feel like emotional connection is kind of like a non-negotiable, right? It's one of those things that I think the essence of what we want to experience when it comes to love is feeling safe and seen and understood. That safety to really be myself and have somebody see me and love me for who I am. If a relationship lacks that, you can have all the wealth in the world, and you can have, the social circles, and you can drive the nice cars, and you can have the perfect body and hot sex life. You can have all of that. But if that emotional connection is lacking, I feel like there is a fundamental level of satisfaction that is missing in the relationship. If you agree with that, just tap that heart a few times. I'm curious how many people resonate with that. I would think that is a fundamental level of satisfaction that's needed in a relationship. Now, emotional attraction requires vulnerability. And I think it's important to say that too. Like, it's not just, am I going to be inherently emotionally attracted to someone? I think, you see a pretty person walking down the street and it's like, oh, they're hot. It's very easy to be attracted to someone on that level. Being emotionally attracted to someone, I think it takes time. Intellectual attraction might happen faster. And sometimes we can confuse the two, right? Sometimes we can confuse the two, and I'll talk about intellectual attraction in a moment. But I think sometimes if we have a great conversation, we find them intellectually stimulating and we feel really good about that, it can be confused for emotional attraction because we find it exciting and we find it intriguing. And, maybe a few of these can be confused as emotional attraction. But I think deep emotional attraction is not something that happens instantly in a relationship. It's something that develops as we become more vulnerable with each other, as we reveal ourselves. So as the walls and the pretenses come down, and you start to see more of me, and I start to see more of you, and we start to feel more safe being who we really are, right? So when we're out in the world, we go to work, we're with our friends, we're with our family, we're in our lives, there are certain pretenses that we put on, like, hey, this is who I am, and I'm cool, and I have it all together, and I, blah, 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 right? Emotional attraction is what happens when those pretenses come down. It's when one human being sees another human being authentically and not only sees them, but loves them for who they truly are. Right? When I let down the pretenses and you see me as I am and you love me anyway, that's true emotional attraction. That's true emotional safety. And that takes time. Nobody does that on a first date. Nobody does that instantly. It never happens instantly. Other levels of attraction can happen faster. And so I think something I want to say here, going back to what I said about sometimes physical attraction might not be there at the very beginning. But if some of these other levels are, you can actually become more physically attracted to someone. And I've experienced this even myself, right? Where like I would maybe not be super physically attracted to someone from the get, but as I would develop more of an intimate, emotional relationship with them, all of a sudden they would become very physically attractive. I remember this podcast I was listening to recently. He was telling a story of how he's like, when I was in my early 20s, I worked in this call room and there was this woman who sat next to me in the cubicle next to me, and we were making phone calls all day and we would talk to each other. And he's like, at first I didn't find her attractive. I didn't even like her that much, but we sat next to each other every single day and we would talk every single day. And the more we got to know each other, he goes, I ended up falling in love with her. Even though I didn't find her particularly, physically attractive, even though at the beginning I didn't even really like her, but the more we really got to know each other and we became more emotionally intimate with each other, I fell in love with her. And I think that is a very real thing that happens to us. And so emotional attraction, again, I think is a non-negotiable in terms of what makes a relationship deeply satisfying. And when we find that emotional attraction with somebody, I think it can even supersede a lot of the other levels of attraction that, we thought were important. Now, let's move on to the third one, sexual attraction. Sexual attraction, distinct from physical attraction, as I mentioned earlier, you can want to be close to someone. You can want to snuggle with them. You can want to hold their hand. You can want to be held by them. You can like the way they smell, right? You can be physically attracted to someone, but not necessarily sexually attracted to them. These are actually governed by two completely distinct hormones, right? You have sex hormones, which are basically testosterone and estrogen. And then you have the cuddle hormone, or the bonding hormone, which would be oxytocin, right? So there are two distinct levels of attraction here when we talk about physical versus sexual. Sexual attraction is one of those things that I think it's chemical to a large degree, but I think it can also develop through emotional attraction. And I see this comment here. Lexi says, you usually don't have that much time to get to know someone without sex. I just want to say maybe in some relationships, but that is definitely not true for everyone. How many people have been friends for years and then became romantic later? That happens a lot, actually. How many people have said, you know what, I'm not ready to go there with someone I just met, but I want to get to know each other first and let our physical relationship happen next. A lot of people do that. So I understand that might be true based on your experience, Lexi. That is not a universal truth for human beings. And in fact, I think a lot of research would show that people become much more sexually compatible after building an emotional foundation. So sexual attraction can be immediate. It can be like, I see someone in the club, they're hot, we go home, we hook up that night. It can also be something that develops over time. it can happen both ways. In the same way that I think emotional attraction can lead to physical attraction, emotional attraction can also lead to sexual attraction. And I also want to say it doesn't always, right? A lot of people will be very emotionally intimate, become very, very close friends, but never ever end up being sexually attracted to each other. So emotional attraction can lead to sexual attraction, but it doesn't always. Hey there, listeners. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you really prioritized your mental health? If life feels overwhelming, stressful, or just plain chaotic, I've got something that could truly make a difference. I want to introduce you to Aura, the #1 app for emotional wellness. Aura offers personalized mindfulness and mental health support that fits your life. Whether you're looking for guided meditations, soothing sleep sounds, life coaching, or breathwork exercises, Aura has something for everyone. The best part? It's tailored specifically to you. Aura learns your preferences and creates a daily routine that supports your unique emotional needs. Now, here's the exciting part. As part of my podcast family, Aura is giving you an exclusive 7-day free trial. That's a full week to explore their library of thousands of wellness tools and discover what works best for you. So take this opportunity to reset, recharge, and show up for yourself. Head to the link in the show notes right below wherever you're listening to this podcast to claim your 7-day free trial. Don't wait. Your mental wellness is worth it. Let Aura help you find peace, balance, and clarity right at your fingertips. Go ahead. Try it today. You deserve it. If you've ever felt like you're stuck in the same painful patterns, questioning why love feels so hard, or struggling to find the deep connection you know you deserve, there's something I want to share with you. The Inspired Love program is an 8-week journey designed to help you break free from toxic cycles, heal the wounds of your past, and prepare yourself to attract and sustain the conscious, fulfilling love that you've been searching for. This isn't just another course. It's a deeply personal experience that will reconnect you to your inherent worth, clear the barrier standing between you and love, and help you create a solid foundation for the healthy, conscious relationship you've always dreamed about. Together in a small and intimate group, we'll tackle the deepest fears and insecurities holding you back and emerge on the other side, free to live and love in alignment with your highest self. Our next journey begins soon, and space is limited to keep the group focused, supportive, and intimate. Whether you're single, recovering from heartbreak, or ready to heal and transform your current relationship, this program will give you the tools, guidance, and connection you need to rewrite your story and create the love you deserve. So don't wait. Love starts with you, and there's no better time than now to take this step. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more and claim your spot in this life-changing program. I want you to be part of this journey because you're worth it, and the love you desire is closer than you think. So let's do this together. Right? Just because you feel deep emotional connection with someone doesn't mean it's going to activate those sex hormones. But it can. And, maybe this is a good time to acknowledge this as well. A lot of this is a little bit mysterious. Like, it's not necessarily something that can be quantified or predicted all the time. And I think that's a powerful thing to put in a conversation about attraction, is that we don't really control it. We're not really in control of this. We can be aware of it. We can be conscious about it. We can even acknowledge, okay, some of my attractions are healthier than others, and maybe I can consciously lean into healthier attractions versus unhealthy ones. But the truth is, we don't really control who we're attracted to or why we're attracted to them. We might love someone deeply and I wish I could be sexually attracted to them because if I could, we could have an amazing relationship, but it just never happens. That can be a reality too. And so, as we talk about each of these, I don't want to lead you to believe that you should be in control of this or you should be able to make yourself attracted to someone. It's more a conversation of identifying the different levels at which we can be attracted to someone and becoming aware of who we're attracted to, why we're attracted to them, on what level we're attracted to them. Going back to non-negotiables, I think for most people, sexual attraction is a non-negotiable. Now, there are asexual relationships, and some of them are very happy. So I'm not saying that it's a universal thing. Like, some people could be like, look, let's be best friends for life. We'll live together. We'll do everything together. Like, we'll be best friends for life, and we don't have sex. And there are relationships where people are actually happy doing that. But I think it's relatively uncommon. I think most people want a satisfying sexual relationship. And I want to say we shouldn't have any shame about that. So some of you may have been in a situation, I see some of the comments right now where it's like, I've been in that situation where I was emotionally attracted to someone. I loved someone deeply, but I couldn't become sexually attracted to them. And we might even feel shame about that. What's wrong with me that I couldn't be attracted to them on these levels? Well, don't feel shame about it. It doesn't always happen. Again, going back to something I said earlier, there are so many levels here. There are chemical levels, there are evolutionary levels, there are hormonal levels, there are societal programming levels. There are, just levels of safety and emotional, resonance. There are probably even spiritual levels of this. So don't have any shame about who you're attracted to and who you're not, but just notice. And it's worth just reiterating one more time that emotional attraction can lead to sexual attraction in some instances. So just because it maybe didn't happen in the past doesn't mean it wouldn't happen in the future. Now, intellectual attraction. I'll make this one quick because I think it's pretty obvious and there's not too much to say about it. But intellectual attraction is being attracted to someone's mind, being attracted to their intelligence, being attracted to their wit or the banter between you, being attracted to their humor, being attracted to the conversation that you have, right? Maybe their depth of insight or their way of viewing the world. This is a very, very seductive type of attraction, actually. I'd say it's powerful. It's a powerful, powerful type of attraction. I think intellectual attraction can definitely spark a sexual attraction, could definitely spark a physical attraction, similar to emotional attraction. Intellectual attraction can often be the foundation for building emotional attraction, right? A lot of times, as I said earlier, you're not going to be emotionally attracted to someone immediately. It takes time to express the vulnerability that makes you feel emotionally safe, but you can be intellectually attracted to someone immediately. And if you develop a strong intellectual bond with someone, it can make you feel safe enough to have the kinds of conversations that can lead to a deep emotional bond. So intellectual attraction is a very powerful form of attraction. I don't know that I would put it in the category of non-negotiable for everybody. But for certain people, it is. Like someone saying right now, intellectual attraction is my main attraction. For certain people, it definitely will be a non-negotiable. Like I know myself and my wife, one of the deepest levels that we connected on was our ability to have deep, interesting, fascinating conversations. It's no surprise. I sit here and have these deep, long conversations with you every week, right? So to be in a relationship where I couldn't do that wouldn't really work for me. But I wouldn't say that's necessary for everyone. Some people maybe are not that into conversation themselves, or they have different priorities. But I think it's a big one for a lot of people. Now, let's go to status attraction. Being drawn to power, influence, or social standing. It's not just about money, but it's about competence, leadership, and the ability to provide stability. So somebody who has a high status in society, and of course this is relative, right? It's interesting. Like when I met my wife, I had a pretty high status in the community that we were in because I was I was a trainer in training within this seminar, this personal transformation seminar community. So, it's interesting. I was getting my education at the time. I didn't have a lot of money. I wasn't, I didn't drive a fancy car or, make millions of dollars, but within the social circles that we were in, I was relatively high status because I was leading trainings. Now, if I had been in a different social circle, I might have been very low status. So this can be relative. But there is the attraction to someone's status. So the power they have, the influence they have, the way they're seen in social circles, the way they, I'll leave it at that, right? It can be about money, right? Because money is one form of status. It could be about them having a beautiful home. It could be about them driving a nice car. It could be about them wearing nice clothes. It could be about some of those things, but it could also be about the esteem they are held in within certain social circles. Now, this is one of the ones that I would say a lot of people may say it's non-negotiable. I don't think it is related to deep satisfaction in a relationship. I don't think someone's status leads to deep satisfaction. Now, some of the factors that lead to their status may. Their intelligence, their ambition, their dedication, their charisma, right? Like some of those may be rooted in non-negotiable qualities. But I don't think that status attraction, being attracted to someone because of their status, is a non-negotiable factor in terms of leading to deep, long-term satisfaction for someone. I think there are a lot of relationships of people who don't have particularly high status in any social circle, but they're deeply satisfied in their partnership with each other. That being said, this is a super pervasive form of attraction. And because as human beings, we are such social creatures, there's an unconscious thing that we're tuning into where when we are in a social circle, there is a tendency, if somebody is held in certain esteem and they're looked at as high status by a lot of people, there's a natural draw to be attracted to them. Right? I think that is inherent in our human nature. When we're in a group, when we're in some kind of social society, again, it could be a community like the personal development seminar community that I met my wife in. It could be our overall human community in terms of the amount of money they make or their position in overall society. But when somebody is held in high esteem within our social circles, there is a natural human drive that we're going to be attracted to them. But just because that natural human drive is there doesn't mean that we would that being in a relationship with that person would lead to long-term deep satisfaction. I think this is a great example of where we've got to kind of discern for ourselves. Okay, yes, there are these evolutionary or environmental factors that can spark attraction, but they're not always related to being deeply satisfied in a relationship. Right? And it makes sense. Like if you look at, like a hunter-gatherer society, it would make sense to be attracted to the person who is the best warrior or the strongest hunter or the most likely to give a healthy baby, right? And so in tribal societies, certain men and certain women were elevated in those societies because of their inherent strength or qualities or fertility or whatever. And so it makes sense that we would have those kind of foundational evolutionary drives that would pull us towards elevated members of our societies. But I think just because those factors are there doesn't mean that that's the right relationship for us. And this is a great example of where we can be discerning. Now let's talk about energetic or spiritual attraction. We could have a conversation about soulmates right now. And let me start out by saying, I don't believe in soulmates. And actually, I think the belief in soulmates a lot of times is super toxic and leads people to super destructive relationships. Now, some of you may not like that statement, and I respect that if you feel differently, but hear me out on this. Having the belief that someone is your soulmate, and we could say maybe you have this energetic or spiritual attraction to someone, which I believe is a real phenomenon. Right? So let's say you have this energetic or spiritual attraction to someone. And because you have that attraction to them, you develop a belief system that says, this person is my soulmate. Well, now you are constructing a belief that means you are spiritually tied to this person. And no matter how toxic they are, no matter how deeply they might hurt you, no matter how much of an asshole they might be, you're going to try to keep them in your life because you believe that you're tied to them on a soul level. So that is a super destructive belief. Every single person that we entertain or interact with or date should be evaluated on their merit. That doesn't mean I wouldn't have a deep energetic or spiritual attraction to someone. That's a real phenomenon. That absolutely happens. But just because that happens doesn't mean they're my soulmate or we're supposed to be together for life. I have seen people sitting around and waiting for their twin flame to finally realize that they're meant to be together, while this person has forgot about them, blocked them on social media, stopped answering their calls, and is out dating other people. I mean, I can't tell you how frankly stupid that is. And I say that with compassion, but we've got to be smarter than that. So, yes, you may have an energetic, a spiritual attraction to someone. That is a real phenomenon. So what does that feel like? It might be a magnetic, unexplainable pull. Maybe there's some awareness that we knew each other in a past life. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. That probably exists. Right? Maybe we have some kind of karmic entanglement that I can't really explain in any kind of logical, rational way, but I feel it on a soul level, and it is there, and it is real, and it is undeniable. Maybe we have some work to do together. Maybe we have a karmic agreement to come into each other's life and activate something in each other's life that was absolutely vital and necessary on our journey. That could very well be true. That doesn't mean we're soulmates. That doesn't mean we're twin flames. But maybe we do have some spiritual work to do together. Maybe we do have some kind of karmic bond. Maybe there was some agreement before we came into this life that we were going to meet at this place and time, and we were going to do this amount of work together. So this energetic spiritual attraction, I think, is an absolute real phenomenon. I think a lot of times what we even confuse for physical attraction might actually be this. Right? We might say, oh, I think they're so hot, but what is really happening is we are being pulled to them because there's something we're going to learn from them. There's some kind of evolution that is going to take place because of our relationship with them. And, like I'll say I've experienced this in my life. And it can be really difficult because sometimes these relationships will be like crash and burn relationships, honestly. Like sometimes they'll be really hot, really heavy, really fast. They'll come into our lives out of nowhere. We'll be like, oh my God, I've never felt this way. It'll be intense. We'll connect with them on such a deep level, and then it'll fall apart very quickly as well. And if we're not conscious and aware of what's happening as we're going through this, like maybe this person literally just came into our life to activate something in us. It was only going to take a month to do, and now we're never going to see him again. And if we're not conscious of that and we're not willing to really surrender to this journey, that's going to be a really, really hard thing to go through. Because we're going to crave that person. We're going to pine over that person. We're going to want them back. We're going to say, why, God, why? Why couldn't it last? Why couldn't it work? You know, I should probably do a whole podcast on this episode, or I should probably do a whole episode on this topic, because this I think is a real phenomenon. It's probably more common than we even realize. But a lot of times these, what we could call karmic or spiritual relationships, are very much not meant to be lifelong. They are short, intense experiences that activate something inside of us, and that was their job. And we've got to be able to recognize, okay, this relationship came into my life for this period of time. It served this purpose, and it's over. And I need to recognize, I need to recognize this for the gift that it was. You see, it's not a punishment that this person came into my life. We had these intense experiences together, and then they were abruptly ripped away. That's not a punishment. That was a gift. I got exactly what I needed from that person. It opened up exactly what it needed to open up for me. And now I can move forward into more sustainable relationships in a way that I wouldn't have been able to if this experience hadn't happened. And I've been through this. Can you tell? I know exactly what this is like. So that's an energetic, spiritual, we could even call it a karmic attraction. One of the most seductive traps that we can fall into, but also I think one of the greatest gifts that we can experience when we go through it consciously. Social attraction. Now, social attraction is being attracted to someone's social presence. So we're at a party. They're the life of the party. People love to talk to them. They're funny. They're humorous. They're charismatic. They have a certain presence where people are drawn to them. They make people feel good. Right? So this is I think, again, going back to status attraction, this is a similar one. Right? This social attraction, it's very normal if someone is charismatic. They're able to draw attention from people. They're the life of the party. They make people feel good. People want to be around them. It is very natural to be attracted to someone like that for the same reasons I talked about with status attraction. They are naturally seen as valuable in the eyes of others. Therefore, we see them as valuable as well. Is this a non-negotiable? No, it's not. Actually, narcissists often have this quality. And somebody who's a little more introverted, somebody who's, not maybe a little more shy or not so much the life of the party, can actually be an amazing partner. So while this is a very easy thing to be attracted to, it is absolutely not a non-negotiable. I'm going to leave it at that because I want to make sure to get through all of them. Number 8, mystery attraction. Mystery attraction is being attracted to somebody's mystery, the unknown. A lot of times this could be their aloofness, right? This could be their aloofness. This could be they don't really reveal so much. They're a little more withdrawn, but maybe they have a mystique about them or an air about them that's like, I want to know what's going on with that person. Now, goes without saying, this is not a non-negotiable. If you become deeply intimate with someone, the mystery is going to disappear, right? 8 years in with my wife, there's not a lot of mystery anymore. I mean, sometimes we surprise each other. Sometimes like, whoa, never seen you do that before. But it's not like there's not a lot of mystery on a day-to-day basis. So is this a non-negotiable? Absolutely not. This is the kind of thing that disappears with time. But it can be intriguing when someone is mysterious. I think there's a trap and a pitfall with this kind of attraction. And the trap or the pitfall is that this is the kind of thing that makes us want to chase. And sometimes we can even marry a person who's mysterious and we never get to know them. And what ends up happening, if there's somebody who they're emotionally withdrawn, they're aloof, they're withheld, and we can chase and chase and chase and even marry them and keep trying to penetrate that, that exterior, and we never get there and they're always aloof and they're always withdrawn. I think that's actually something that would lead to deep dissatisfaction. Now, it's okay if you meet someone and you meet them at a party or you meet them, wherever, and they're a little mysterious and you're like, oh, that person seems interesting. I want to get to know them. But then as you do get to know them, they open up and the mystery becomes demystified. Beautiful. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with being attracted to someone's mystery. But if they're not willing to open up and you keep chasing and chasing and chasing and trying to penetrate that is going to set you up for a lifetime of deep dissatisfaction. Now, this next one, number 9, is healing attraction, and it might go hand in hand with mystery attraction. But healing attraction is when we're attracted to someone who mirrors our wounding. This could also sometimes go hand in hand with what I was talking about with a karmic or a spiritual attraction. These are relationships that likely are not healthy. Now, let me say this. I think there is a level at which, if I look at myself and my wife, there is a level at which myself and my wife have illuminated each other's wounding and created a safe environment for us to heal together. And I think that is actually something that happens in any deeply fulfilling long-term conscious relationship. But that's not really what I'm talking about with a healing attraction. Right? When I met my wife, I wasn't attracted to the ways in which she reflected my wounds. I was actually attracted to the ways in which she reflected my highest self. Right? There was a combination of physical, intellectual, sexual attraction. As we got to know each other, emotional attraction built. There may have been some level of spiritual attraction there, although it wasn't the kind of intense spiritual attraction that I was talking about a little while ago. There may have been a level of status attraction in that we were both relatively high status within the community we were in. So there may have been a combination of these different factors. But I think what I really saw in her was a reflection of my highest self and vice versa. So while there has been an opportunity for a lot of healing to take place in our relationship, it's not really the kind of healing attraction that I'm talking about here. These kinds of healing attractions that I'm talking about are relationships where we are literally attracted to someone who reflects maybe, if you had an avoidant father or an emotionally unavailable father, and then you might be attracted to men who are avoidant or emotionally unavailable. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And the purpose that these attractions serve, which I think for a lot of us, this is a very necessary stage in our healing journey, what these attractions serve is the opportunity to re-experience those same familiar dynamics that we had as children and make a new decision about them. Right? So using the example I just gave, say there's a woman who had an avoidant or emotionally unavailable father, and she spent her whole childhood trying to be enough for her father, and no matter what she did, it was never enough. She never got the love and approval and validation that she needed from him. And so now as an adult, she's attracted to men who have that same kind of air about them, and she falls into those same patterns of trying to prove herself and get the approval that she never got from her father, and so on, right? The purpose of this attraction that it serves in her life is actually the opportunity for her to recreate the same emotional dynamics that she experienced as a child. And then when she is in that emotional dynamic, she can re-experience the pain of it and decide for herself, I don't want this anymore. And the moment she can decide for herself, I don't want this anymore. I want someone that I can actually be deeply emotionally connected and attuned to. That relationship, as toxic and painful as it was, has actually facilitated a healing in her. That relationship served as a reflective mirror that allowed her to heal. Not because that person healed her, that person is maybe as toxic as they come. That person was never going to love her the way she needed to be loved, but he offered her an environment in which she could choose to heal herself. And sometimes we absolutely need that before we can recognize our worth and what we truly deserve to have in partnership. So that's a healing attraction. Now this last one, ambition and drive attraction. This is when we are attracted to somebody's ambition, somebody's drive. Is this a non-negotiable? Not necessarily. But I would say this is a huge green flag. Right? And I think this can look in different ways for different people. Not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur, but I think somebody being ambitious about something in their lives. Somebody being ambitious about something, whether it's I want to be a mother, I want to have a family, whether it's I want to own my own business, or I want to grow my business, or I want to move to the top of my, corporate ladder, or I want to own a home, or I want to, invest a certain amount, or, set up my family for the future. Or, I'm giving just some examples here. Maybe they're ambitious about a passion, right? I'm ambitious about my music or my art. I think ambition is a reflection of someone's deeper passion, and it is a reflection of somebody being truly alive and engaged in the world. On the highest levels of partnership, I think there's a degree of ambition. So while I say it's not a non-negotiable, I think it's a huge green flag for somebody to be ambitious about something. And maybe for a lot of us, especially those of us who want the ultimate experience of relationship, it is a non-negotiable. Now, maybe it's worth saying here, there can also be ambitions that I wouldn't say are a red flag, but could be incompatible. If somebody wants to be a rock star, that's a wonderful thing to be ambitious about and beautiful. Like, I hope they make it. But, somebody might say, if this person's going to be on tour, 10 months out of the year, they're never going to be home. Like, maybe this isn't the person I want to have a family with. So yes, they're highly ambitious, and that's a beautiful quality in a human being, but it could also be incompatible for the life that you want to have with someone. So there's nuance here, right? It's a good thing, but maybe not good in every way all the time. So one more time, I'm going to read through these 10 different types of attraction that I've just gone over. Number 1 is physical attraction. Number 2 is emotional attraction. Number 3 is sexual attraction. Number 4 is intellectual attraction. Number 5 is status attraction. Number 6 is an energetic or spiritual attraction. Number 7 is a social attraction. Number 8 is a mystery attraction. Number 9 is a healing attraction. And number 10 is an ambition and drive attraction. In closing, I want to say that some of these are going to be more non-negotiable for some people than others. Some of these are things that everybody would say, like, I definitely want these in my relationship to have a high level of satisfaction. Some of these are going to be like, that's more of a societal value, but it's not so important to me. Some of these are like, if I'm attracted to someone in this way, it might be a little bit of a red flag. So what I really want you to take away from today's conversation is that there are so many different levels that we could be attracted to someone on. And, if you didn't think they were the hottest thing you'd ever seen when they first walked into a room, that doesn't mean that you can't connect with them on an emotional level, on a sexual level, fall deeply in love with them. And when we can start to be aware of all these different levels of attraction, and we can start to recognize them within ourselves, and when we meet someone, we can say, oh, I'm attracted to them on this level, but not necessarily on this level. We can start to consciously decide, do I want to lean into the levels at which I am attracted to them on? And see if maybe leaning into that fills the gaps in other areas that I wasn't aware of before, or that I wasn't attracted before. And the purpose, or I should say the power in this, is that it gives us the ability to be more connected more deeply to people more often. Not only that, but it allows us to identify the difference between a superficial attraction that doesn't lead to long-term satisfaction and a more core soul-level attraction that is absolutely necessary in the kind of partnership we want to have. So thank you, everybody, for being with me today. This is the Conscious Love Show podcast. You can find us on all major platforms. Before you go, make sure to hit that follow button if you haven't hit it already. Make sure to subscribe on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts most. Thank you, everybody, for being with me today. Lots of love. Thanks again for checking out the show. Please subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on the most. And I would love it so much if you leave a review and tell people what you think of us. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram @TheLivingRelationship to connect more closely. And I'm grateful to be supporting you on your journey to love.